Okay, welcome to Plan 9 Crunch. I'm Doug Gibson, and we are here with Alex DiSanto. And if you have the Milligan Blu-ray sets from Severin, including The Dungeon and also Gutter Auteur, you have benefited from the knowledge that Alex has. Alex, you're a self-described Milligan, is it expert or Milligan scholar or Milligan studier or something?
You can go with expert.
Expert, yeah. And where?
Anything. I'll take anything.
Okay, where are we talking to you? Where are you at right now?
We are in my lovely little library in Toronto, Ontario.
Oh, cool, cool.
Hmm.
We're Ogden, Utah, which is nearly as glamorous, okay, but we're here. And I wanted to ask,
Gorgeous.
yeah, I wanted to ask you something. When is the
Mm.
first time you became aware of Andy Milligan?
It was at a convention in 2014. Um, I was going through a stack. This one dealer had a stack of something weird DVD-Rs, and I was looking for some sort of specific title. And as I'm flipping through, one of the films there was Bloodthirsty Butchers. And I had a good um, idea, or at least I thought I did, of all the main exploitation players at that until up until then, like Herschel Gordon Lewis, Ted V. Michaels, Jack Hill, everyone. I had read Nightmare USA a bit and things like that. But I saw Bloodthirsty Butchers in that great cover art. And I'm like, okay, something's really wrong here. I don't know what this is, but this is absolutely fantastic. Um, so I didn't buy the film there, but I went home and Googled the movie, and then all of his post artwork for things like Torture Dungeon and The Rats Are Coming, The Werewolves Are Here start popping up, and I'm like, I found something. I don't know what it is, but I found something, all right.
That was the first movie you saw then, Bloodthirsty Butchers.
I think so. Only coincidentally because it was the most available. That was like one of the few that at the time was on YouTube in that really bad video cart TV cut with
Oh,
all
yeah,
with missing all
yeah.
the gore and things like that. It took a while to finally see the gore version.
You know, it's interesting because I think I'm a generation more than you in age, because the way I discovered Milligan without seeing his
Hmm.
movies were there were these little books you bought that had like 10,000 movie capsule reviews in them. And I couldn't believe this Milligan guy and the titles, you know, Torture Dungeon, Bloodthirsty Butchers, but they always got turkey reviews and things like that in those books. The TV video guides and the Lynn and Malton stuff and stuff like that. But he always
Yeah,
intrigued me.
yeah.
Andy Milligan's making these names. Man with Two Heads. You know, it's just, these are
Hmm.
incredible titles, but they never popped up on TV. And you were,
Maybe I don't
what?
know. People have said Man with Two Heads they've seen on TV,
They never popped up
but
in my
I don't
Mormon
think they
white
really
life. Okay,
played.
put it that way, I guess. And
No, yeah, exactly. I don't think they played too much on TV, but apparently they had one or two scattered showings.
I think I'd actually heard of the Rats movie, because once again, that's a title you
Mm.
just remember. That might have been playing on some triple feature drive-in in Long Beach, California, where we grew up as a kid at one time. But the name, it always
Mhm.
intrigued me. And then we couldn't find him on YouTube for a long time. My co-blogger, his name is Steve Stones, who's done a great piece of art, and I was going to bring it, but I forgot, of Bloodthirsty Butchers.
Oh.
We were looking for Torture Dungeon. We wanted to watch it so badly, and we paid like $75 to buy the bubble iconic VHS, and that's the first
The
time.
Midnight Video.
Yeah, and that's the first Andy Milligan film I
Yeah.
ever saw. Was watching it on that, and Torture Dungeon to me just blew my mind away. I thought it was incredible. Then of course McDonough's book came out. But what made you
Mhm.
decide you wanted to become an expert at Andy Milligan?
Um, I have like tried to think deep down and see if there's any like intense personal reason or psychological whatever. I don't know. He just really grabbed me. Uh, Maybe because of the sheer audacity.
Yeah.
of what he was doing with such punishing budgets and things like that. Like by the time I found him, I was also a really big fan of like 80s camcorder shot on video movies
Hmm.
and the whole idea of let's do something from nothing. But it absolutely astounded me that someone was pretty much doing that, but his films were getting blown up to 35 millimeter and played all over the US. They played most of them played up here in Canada, occasionally in Europe. That's what really astounded me, was that it wasn't just one of those like things you found on a rental shelf. People saw ads in newspapers and paid an admission price and got Torture Dungeon. And sometimes in the weirdest configurations. Like I remember one person wrote somewhere that like Torture Dungeon was the B for Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Was it?
when he saw it. Can you imagine? You just watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre and then suddenly Torture Dungeon unspools right after.
Well, a lot of people,
And that
that would blow your mind away.
Go
You're
ahead.
right.
Yeah. That just astounded me. And I guess I've also been had a thing for very personal tortured artists, as well, and just watching his psychology pretty much unfold in his movies, kind of like other filmmakers I really like Michael Finley and things like that. They put
Hmm.
all their personal grievances, on film. It's like watching them dissect themselves in this really fascinating way
And I think you're touching
and
on
making something
something.
out of it.
Yeah, you're touching on the dysfunctions, the personal and familial dysfunctions that are in these movies. And also, one thing when I saw Torture Dungeon, what really attracted me was everything was in your face. I mean, the scenes were so cramped and narrow, the faces were shown to you, and the angst and anguish and anger was out there. These were more than horror films, I realized. They were horrors also
Yeah.
of the mind and the social going on.
Yeah, they were a lot more, and that's I think what also impressed me. They're a lot more energetic than a lot of his other contemporaries. They're a lot more intense. They're like Herschel Gordon Lewis, who really just did a lot of just master shots and occasional medium shots and things like that. Like Al Adamson, was the same way. They're very much locked down on a tripod. We have enough of what's going on in the frame, so let's just like go ahead in this. Milligan is like grabbing you by the hair and like
Yes,
forcing your
exactly.
face into it, and he's like not letting go. And then you can, and then with you being able to occasionally like hear him murmuring, you can like feel him practically like right over your shoulder as well, like almost like watching you watch his own movies. So that's also what like grabbed me about them. They're so much more intense than anything else that was really going on, within his budgetary range. I mean, a bit higher. Like H.G. Lewis had like $20,000 at the very least, but in that same drive-in echelon, there was no one else who was going that insane and almost tiring you out by the time you finish the movie.
Lewis's actors, I mean, I've seen all his movies too, but Lewis's actors are
Yeah.
dead on the screen, okay? There's no personality, no
Mhm.
charisma in any of them. But when you have a Maggie Rogers on the screen, or Gerald Jacuzzo, or what's the guy, Neil Flanagan, or even
Yeah,
Briarly
Neil.
Lee, who I saw for the first time, and Natalie Rogers, these are really good performances.
Yeah. These were really dedicated actors who, again, I just came from that. A lot of other people, like especially people out in California, it's more so about like looking nice
Hmm.
and things like that, and acting came like secondary. These were very intensely dedicated people, who, again, if you like acted for the Cafe Chino and stuff, it wasn't for the money. You
No.
got next to nothing out of playing for that. It was the love of what you were doing, because there was almost no monetary gain from doing that work. So those people naturally would bring their A game also to these small movies, as well. And that's really the difference between him and a lot of the other people. Like, well, some of the other people could be like in some of these other guys' movies were literally just models
Yeah.
that they stuck a script in front of. But not with Andy's stuff. These were really, really intense people dedicated to their craft.
That's true, because he got me thinking about the star of of the Lewis movie Blood Feast.
Blood Feast,
Yeah, I mean
Connie
that's what
Mason.
you're talking about, right? More or less. And then you see
Yeah.
someone like Susan Cassidy, who we just did a podcast on, even though we didn't talk to her.
Hmm.
That she has some kind of screen charisma, that maybe low budget and everything, but you follow the eyes, and you follow the eyes for Hope
Yeah.
Stansberry. And I don't
Hmm.
want to ramble too much because I'm a big rambler. I don't take notes. So let's go to
It's okay. I do too.
let's go to Torture Dungeon, because if you get the Dungeon, great deal from Severin,
Hmm.
you do commentary on Torture Dungeon. What was that experience like?
Um, I'm trying to think. This was like 2 or 3 years ago, and I just
You
kind
don't
of
have
did
to.
it
You
and
don't have to
forgot about
recall
it.
the commentary. What did you see in the movie that you thought was worth sharing?
Um, it was, see, at the time I was onboarded and did that, actually, I would have done a commentary for Seeds, but I wasn't aware that it was going to be put onto the set.
Oh,
So out of all of the titles that I was given, that was the one I liked the most because it was, out of all the horror films, it was closest to his wild sexploitational roots. It was one of the few of that era, mid 60s Staten Island movies with a lot of the people that he had used time and time again. And also, they were like, Alex, we have 3 commentators for Ghastly Ones. You can't do a Ghastly Ones commentary. We have too many.
well, tell me
Because
about
Ghastly
Seeds. What
Ones
do
is
you
another
like
one I
about
really
Seeds?
love.
I think the dysfunction is incredible in Seeds. All right, and the drama in it. But tell me what.
Uh, Yeah, I like nasty, loud, screechy melodrama. Like I love like Who is Afraid of Virginia Woolf and some of those like Tennessee Williams adaptions like Suddenly Last Summer and stuff. And also I'm a big 60s exploitation fan as a whole. And normally those are crap. I will just go out and say it. Normally they're not good. Things like Joe Sardo, Michael Finley are some of the outliers, and also Andy as well for actually delivering something fascinating outside of the requisite. Let's just get a 35 camera, some naked women, and some stock music, and put it all together, and we got a piece of product. He's one of the few who actually decided to do something more interesting
Mhm.
with that genre. And I was always a theater kid as well back then, so I really just resonated with that type of thing.
He brings out the inner madness in people. Like Maggie Rogers is incredible in Seeds. And by the way, I like
Yeah.
Seeds. I did not care much for Seeds of Sin or whatever it was called because of the inserts.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no.
but I do like Seeds a lot, and I watch it often. But she is just so intense and angry. And when it comes to lunacy, controlled lunacy is Candy Hammond, isn't she, in that movie? She's just
Yeah, yeah, she's one of those ones that he just. I'm not sure if Susan Cassidy was even
she is in that
an
movie.
actual actress. Yeah. But now I'm thinking, I've never found anything about her being like acting in theater and things like that. So she might have also been one of those just naturals as well. Like Candy went to New York to get into fashion. She was not into acting at all and things like that. She just became friends with Andy. And Andy just started putting her in these movies. And yeah, it's one of the few, once again, sexploitation films that still feels dark
Hmm.
and intense. A lot of them like start to feel kitschy with age. Even those Olga movies have very comic booky in their violence and things like that. There's very few of those films from that era that still gets a reaction out of you. Seeds
Particularly
is
the
one
New
of the
York
very
films,
few.
because I watched The Sex Killer recently. Dumb
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
But the only good thing about it is the skylines of New York you see in the movies. But the acting is,
I love those psychosexual ones. No, I get a kick out of the sex killer, the whole weird mannequin
yeah.
thing as well. That you don't really see that much. So I was just kind of like, especially in Barry Mahon's other movies, I was a little bit impressed. I was like, oh,
Well,
Barry.
maybe come think of it. Maybe that kind of idea of Man with the Mannequin is interesting. But what I liked the best was seeing New York in the 1960s in those things. That's what I like about Andy, how his
Yeah.
films are very New York and also Staten Island. I want to ask you
Mhm.
about Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, which I
Sure.
get the feeling you really are thrilled about seeing. I think everybody is. But what strikes me is this gives us a whole different look at Milligan. It gives us a look at Milligan softcore dramas in the 1960s, and we don't have many of those. We're still waiting to hope other films show up. But this movie looked like something a director on his way up would have made and would have gone on to bigger things, in my opinion. Or am I incorrect there?
No. You're totally right. And some people did see that. It's like a lot of reviewers didn't like it, but some did get what he was doing. Box Office Magazine really understood what Andy was all about, and things like that. Though also, I will say it's also probably as sharp as it is in certain degrees because of Joseph Bush's screenplay as well. Because again, even some of the sexploitation films can be a bit meandering. Like I've read the script for Tricks of the Trade, and that has long monologues running through that film. Oh yeah, that's an incredibly brutally talky film, and things like that. But I would also say this was a more energetic. This was a better time for Andy as well, because he wasn't necessarily getting burned out and messed around by his distributors. Because once again, this was shot, even though it oddly enough came out in 1969, this was shot in 1966. This was a very early film for him, and this was before Michigan had released stuff like Promiscuous Sex or Naked Witch. He had not dealt with those films yet. The whole Jerry Balsam thing, the whole Jerry Balsam debacle hadn't happened yet. So this was a really good time for Andy as well. Like there was a lot of hope still going on that if he kept making these movies and gave them into theaters, they would lead somewhere.
But the problem was Michigan, right? He wasn't going to allow him that opportunity, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah, no. Michigan wouldn't. And always, the problem is also being associated with Michigan wasn't a good thing because Michigan in the industry as a whole was known for getting especially really crappy movies, like really bad ancient imports that had been like 10 years old already, and making really good campaigns and conning the public into seeing them. But the whole like thing around Michigan was, oh, Michigan's just really good at packaging utter garbage.
He was.
So yeah, so if you're associated with Michigan, that's not really a good sign, because right off the bat, people are associating you with just absolute bottom of the barrel drinks. And also, Andy selling himself. This was also what he shot himself in the foot with this. Selling yourself as a director who can make $10,000 movies. People aren't in that industry are not going to look at you and go, oh, I wonder what you could do for 20,000. They're going to go, okay, great. You can make a movie for $10,000. Fantastic. I don't have to spend any more. Here's $10,000. Go ahead and make another. That's happened with other filmmakers who tried to do the same thing, like William Girdler and stuff like that. They tried to do I can do it for this much. Imagine what I could do it for more. And they just went, well, the thing you did for that much was enough for us. So why would we invest more into what you're doing?
Do you think
Go ahead.
Do you think the rumors are true that Milligan would take half the money and just pay himself with it?
I definitely not half the money. You cannot make some of those movies with only like $5,000. But I do feel like, and one or two people like mentioned that as well, who was around, like Haliborski and stuff. I think after a while he would maybe pocket 1,000 or 2,000 off the budget, possibly, especially when it kind of became apparent he wasn't going to make any more off of these, because otherwise all he got really from making each film was about a $3,000 buyout for letting Michigan buy out his interest in the films.
And that happened with Balsam eventually
3K.
too, right? To some degree.
Well, the Balsam situation was, and that was another situation where, again, and this was still in the Kiss Me era, where three producers who had a company called ASA Productions saw what he was doing and were like, "Oh, okay, we'll sign you on to this three-picture deal, which was Degenerates, Depraved, and Ghastly Ones." And that was one of those things where like, okay, wow, other producers are now funding my movies and things like that. This seems like it's going to go over well. What he wasn't aware of, though, was that those three guys owed distributor Jerry Balsam a ton of money. Um, so what pretty much happened is that Jerry got the films for free in lieu of all this money that they owed him. And Andy was a third party, so he was pretty much completely cut out, like the producers were. So Balsam for those three movies, instead of 3,000 apiece, he gave him 3,000 just as a whole to get him to fuck off, pretty much.
Yeah, that's just, it just seems like someone should do a movie or a big long book on these producers and distributors because they seem. I remember reading an interview with Ray Dennis Steckler, who had the same problems to some degree, and he eventually said that he just asked him to send them VHS tapes. Okay, and he started a video store. But
Yeah, go ahead.
no, it's just kind of sad that Andy. Well, I don't know if Andy's personality would allow him to work in a bigger milieu. I don't know, but I don't know if I understand Andy Milligan's personality as much as we ever will know. I mean, he was able to buy a house in Staten Island, okay, from this stuff, but he never could get. And you were telling me why. Maybe the Michigan Association hurt him, but he could never get beyond anything, whether personal.
He was also, yeah, that was a bit as well. He was also a little bit stuck in his ways.
Yeah.
Like never really upgrading his equipment to anything better. Like the lights he used were very amateur, and he never upgraded beyond using basic like three bare bulbs on clamps clamped around a room and things like that. No light stands or anything like that, just a tripod maybe. And yeah, even when he had more money, like when he went to London and stuff like Nightbirds and Body Beneath, you can see like when he does have more money, he is a bit more careful. He does a bit more with it. Like Nightbirds was around $12,000. Body Beneath was close to $20,000. And you can tell in that one, there's a lot more effort going on in that film that had a longer shooting schedule as well. And I don't know, you can see in like even with stuff like Filthy Five and the one reel we had, that's pretty accomplished.
I'm dying to see that
for
movie.
what he's doing.
I used to be a boxer long ago, and I'd love to see that movie just for the plot.
Yeah.
Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me actually played in London before it played in the U.S., right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I wonder if that's
I
something
haven't
him
checked in
going
a
to
hot
London
minute.
facilitated that being shown. I don't know.
No, what happened was that Leslie Elliott, sorry, for his Compton Cinemas was always coming to the US to get product for these theaters. He got a lot of movies from distributors who otherwise didn't sell internationally because he actually went over there and said, "Give me your movies." Like he got stuff from a really obscure distributor called Mytan Productions, all sorts of little fly-by-night guys, and Michigan. He came over and bought the films from Michigan. And also Jerry Balsam. Jerry Balsam was another one. He needed product because he was having a weekly double bill. And so we're talking around 100 movies annually. So he was very actively in New York seeking out product and getting it. And I think, actually, funny enough, it was through Jerry Balsam. He just happened to meet Andy. And Andy was, again, like the other producers, appealing to him and that I could really grind out some product for you. And again, it had the same thing where like, yeah, you couldn't go too rough in England and things like that, even in Compton and stuff. So these really dark little psychosexual dramas really did appeal. And that's really what he was going to keep doing with Leslie Elliott. Besides The Body Beneath being a horror film, the other films he was going to do, The Bitch was a really dark drama. He was going to do another one set on a farm called Come Summer, about this new wife who comes who moves into her husband's family home and begins to wreak havoc, and ends in his mother pinning her to death in the barn with a pitchfork,
Yeah, that would have been
so on and
cool.
so forth. So, yeah, so he's pretty much going to keep on doing that same thing over there in London. So that was really what was attractive about him, is that
Well,
he had the he had.
he
Go ahead.
clashed with the elder Mr. Elliot, right? That's the problem, right?
Yeah, which sucked because it was a really good deal and some really good stuff was going to come out of that. Like Come Summer was, like he said in the interview, that was going to be shot in Sweden because
Yeah.
the Elliots had a house in Sweden. So some really good stuff was going to come out of that. But according to Leslie Elliott himself, yeah, his father took control over certain interest in the Compton group that he had no right to do, because Leslie Elliott, he like Leslie Elliott's interest only all concerned Andy and what he was doing and things like that. His father really shouldn't have impeded in that whole mess,
He had the money,
but he
right?
did. Yeah, he did. And decided to start poking around with Andy, and Andy's not really good at biting his tongue.
Yeah.
I will say, like, Andy, maybe if Andy had shut up, things would have eventually smoothed themselves over and stuff. But yeah, that's again another example of, yeah, his personality getting a bit in the way. Maybe it would have still soured in the end, but Andy did rile up the wrong guy.
Wait, the two movies that came
And
out, I had been waiting forever for The Degenerates, mainly because of the plot. All right. I love the way Milligan can
mhm,
take these huge movies of like an apocalyptic afterworld with soldiers and make them for
mhm.
$10,000. But what do you think is there a comparison between Degenerates and Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me in quality? Do you think, or do you think they're both just pure Milligan in different scenarios?
I don't think Kiss Me's Pierre Milligan because it
Of
wasn't
Joseph
written by
Bush.
him.
He has
Yeah, it was definitely
montages. He
not.
has they go to the art thing and they go to the beach. That's different, right?
Yeah, there's humor. He breaks the fourth wall twice, so on and so forth. So, and there's no long monologues. There's no really long, like, just phrasing on an actor's face, and they had tell a whole backstory,
Hmm.
and things like that. Because a lot of the other ones are the same way. I'm pretty sure Filthy Five had one or two really long monologue type things. Uh, I think Naked Witch did. Tricks of the Trade, like I said, has a decent handful
Hmm.
of let me tell you about my let me just stop and tell you all about my like miserable childhood, and things like that. But Joe Bush was a friend of Andy's, had been in one or two of his films
Depraved
already,
and Naked
Naked Witch
Temptress,
and
right? Yeah.
Depraved. Yes, yes. So I think also he understood Andy and knew to put in like I said, like to say Milliganisms,
Hmm.
uh, like all the like the yelling, the screaming,
Well, the
and the
last 10
fighting.
minutes of the movie is pure Milligan, right?
Exactly. Unlike the people who wrote like Surgikill, Bush knew Andy,
Hmm.
so that was a really that was in my opinion a really good, like the best writing collaboration that he ever really had,
That's,
because they
well,
were close
you know,
at that time.
Andy was a rascal. I knew Sherman Hirsch, okay? We were
Yeah.
pretty good friends because he's from California. And he told
Mm.
me until 2012, he devoutly believed that Milligan had never made a film in England because Milligan told him that. So there was a bit of a rascal to Andy, right? You think?
Oh yeah. No. Andy would. I think also if he like kind of knew he could, he was really good at reading people. It
Yeah.
seemed like he was really good at knowing what got to them and stuff. So maybe also because Sherman was the one who wrote the script and Andy like literally took it and changed certain
He did
things
quite a
and
bit.
stuff like
Yeah.
that. I can see Andy like going to him and fucking with
I,
Sherman.
yeah, because he did that. He did that to poor John Miranda, who paid for the end of his life, and everything like that. If you read McDonough's
Yeah,
book.
I don't know what that was about. That was really something. But yeah, Degenerate is definitely more Andy than Kiss Me is, because he was directly behind that. He pretty much wrote the script again with Jerry Jacuzzo, though writing a script with Andy, if it says it's two people, it's really just Andy and you're just at the typewriter, putting down what he wants. So that is definitely a lot more Andy. You could tell just by a lot of the tropes and things like that. It's a lot more Seeds than like Kiss Me
It is a lot like Seeds. Yes.
with that one. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot more. It's more subtle
Yes,
in
very
its
subtle.
darkness than Seeds, which thankfully like, is good to great effect. I really didn't know what I was expecting. It was in my top three of the Lost films I wanted to see, besides Depraved and The Filthy Five.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the other two I'm still really, really dying to see. But yeah, the idea of Milligan taking a poor bunch of hapless actors out into an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere, and them being pretty much at his mercy really
Well,
fascinated me.
Byerly Lee is like a younger version of Maggie Rogers, I think, in this movie a little bit. The oldest
Yeah, she's
sister.
crazy.
And that scene where
Yeah, 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 yeah.
she tries to have intimacy with her sister is Milligan painful to watch. You know, that's it's just a really good film. I
Yeah, it is. It is the abuse. It is an abused woman inadvertently turning around and abusing her sisters,
yeah
while also at the same time trying to make sure that men don't abuse them.
yeah. And I
It's really messed up.
and that's why I love Degenerates because I had no idea what it was going to be like, and now I know. All right, and everything. I know the setting. I thought Hope was very good in that movie. Also, she doesn't have as much to do as Lee, but she's very good in it.
Yeah. Yeah, she brings a lot more than I would have expected and anyone else probably would have to a mute character.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't her favorite thing in the world. Hope definitely wasn't one for going out into the woods and rolling around in the dirt. Uh, something like she fondly remembered Depraved a lot more because she played a sophisticated lesbian,
It'd be fun to see
and
that
things like
movie,
that.
wouldn't it? It'd be fun to see that movie.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Even though I'm like, yeah, Hope, you drug and you assault a woman. Oh, I don't remember that.
Well,
Uh,
I love her madness in Blood. I really do. I do. Oh,
yes, and in Rats Are Coming as
yeah.
well. I'm so happy that Andy, snagged some money out of the budget to bring her over. Because she's one of those people where you try to imagine someone else doing that, like Brierly Lee. You really can't. I just can't see anyone else being those characters besides Hope, because Hope is just such a singular force.
I thought Ann Linden was pretty good in that movie too, and James Burgos. Is his name James Burgos? Yeah.
Robert,
Robert Burgos. I'm sorry.
Robert
Yeah.
Burgos,
Yeah.
Robert Burgos. Yes, Anne Linden is definitely my. She's hands down my favorite of Milligan's regulars.
Hmm.
Lovely lady, absolute professional, and yeah, willing to do all this crazy stuff. And Andy had a lot of respect for her, and she had a lot of respect for what Andy was doing as well. She didn't have any bad memories about these movies. She didn't remember a lot, but she had no bad memories about what really went on. Her only memory of Degenerates was, I think I'm in a chicken coop in that one.
That's pretty true. Now, one thing I want to talk about in Kiss Me One More Time is maybe it's
Yeah.
a Joseph Bush influence. Is you've got a very dysfunctional marriage. You've got a man who's essentially a wife beater, and you've got a woman
Mhm.
who's slowly going insane, probably, and she's unhappy. But they have moments even after they're slapping around each other of intimacy in the film. Like these are people who have been together 20 years, and you can tell. I mean, and that may have been perhaps is that the influence of Bush in the screenplay?
Uh, Possibly, because as far as I know, and as far as I've been able to tell, other ones with abusive couples, like Johnny and Rose in Filthy Five, and there's a couple in Depraved where Robert Burgos is the abusive husband, and those ones don't ever really let up and stuff. The couple in the Filthy Five are both awful.
Mm-hmm.
Both people are awful in their own ways. Johnny is insanely abusive, but Rose is also really conniving and diabolical and has everyone wrapped around her finger. Depraved Robert Burgos is an abusive husband, and his poor wife is pretty much just constantly trying to find reasons to stay away from him throughout
Hmm.
the whole thing. There's no real let up for that one. And again, any real lovely characters like Burgos and Beth Porter and the Naked Witch almost always end in tragedy. He dies at sea, and she gives birth to his. She miscarries his baby out on the beach,
Wow.
and is pretty much ostracized from town and stuff. So yeah, I would say likely that is a Burgos thing. Also, gutter trash actually. Candy meets this lovely man who tries to get her to like marry him and leave her debauched ways, but she says no, and everything goes to hell. She winds up in prison. Flesh Pond 42nd Street. That one moment of happiness is
Destroyed immediately.
it goes down. Yeah, is destroyed when he gets hit by a car. So yes, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, that probably was Burgos, because Andy would have probably had them still absolutely brutalizing each other
You know,
if he could.
I I was surprised to find out that the actress who plays Ellen, I can't remember her name right now, that was her son in the film, right?
Yeah, Joy Martin.
Yeah. So,
I could, yeah, and she also loaned him out for one sequence in Tricks of the Trade as well too. Um,
he's sort of an
but
afterthought in that movie, to be honest. You know that he comes back after not seeing him for scenes and scenes and
oh,
scenes.
oh, yeah, everyone I've spoken to was like, where was Jimmy this whole time? You know, he's either with Lurleen at the zoo or something like that, or he's like been stuffed into another room
Yeah, because it's a very
all the
cramped
damn time.
tenement. I like the tenement life. I like seeing the scenes of New York City in that movie quite a bit. And
Yeah, I thought it was kind of a New York streetcar named Desire a
yeah,
little bit. Yeah, that's really the feeling that I got. It's a really like I've was speaking to other New Yorkers and stuff. Like they've said, like that's a film that really encapsulates what New York apartments were
what
really
like in that
like.
time period. And you talked about
Yeah,
Rattray and maybe it was you. I don't. I think it was you and Natalie Rogers in this form of a Marlon Brando and a Marilyn Monroe. I think you said that. If I apologize if I was thinking Stephen Thrower, but I think you said that.
I think so.
Yeah, and the thing
Maybe.
that interests me is I saw three characters in Rogers, and I really think "Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me" is her film. I saw Marilyn Monroe, but I
Yeah.
also saw Billie Holiday and oh gosh, who is that actress? I was preparing her name. She's a low. Oh, Barbara Nichols, I think her name was, and
Oh
yeah,
yes.
I saw a
Well,
combination of
that
that.
really the that was really just Michigan's original, very basic idea is that he was going to have a ditzy Marylandish blonde when her husband is going to be a more brutish Marlon Brando type character. And that was the real genesis for the whole thing. And then it just expanded from there on and so forth and changed out a little bit like that. They didn't really keep that um, further on into the script and things like that, besides Natalie being ditzy and her husband being like, yeah, a bit hardened and abusive. It definitely went in its own territory, but that was just the very basic I like here's the idea for what's gonna happen.
Well, I know people like Natalie Rogers' character in that movie. All right.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Okay.
I don't know about their adultery, but I know their personality. Okay, and
Uh-huh.
she's a method actress, so I could just see her on the set, not going out of character the whole time. That would have been interesting. Uh, I
I guess,
I
yeah.
watched her on the Blu-ray in current day, and I sort of rolled my eyes when she said it made $15 million. But apparently, she and her husband went out and did the Dove Theater, later. So they had some success after that and everything. And she wrote a book, I guess, that was pretty popular in academia.
Well, yeah, yeah. She became a speech pathologist
Yeah,
later on. Because with some of these people, like it just, there's so many actors in New York, and only so many people get the breaks,
yeah.
and things like that. Though the Dove Theater Company was a very small thing. That was out of a church. That was out
The
of the
same church in
church.
Guru, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Andy had a bit of a hand in the Dove Theater. Um, She was so busy there. I wish I had time to ask her more about that when I met her. She had a little entourage of some friends and things like that. She was really feeling herself, rightfully so. But yeah. That was one of the very many little troops that was going on in New York at the time, kind of like La Mama, but on a smaller scale. And Lyndon was involved in another one called Judson Poets Theater, and they operated out of the attic of a
Wow.
church.
Well, Joy Martin
Yeah,
was
yeah,
also involved in something too, I think, in New York in that time
uh, uh,
period.
yeah. I have the article somewhere, but she was also involved in
Yeah.
some of these little theater scenes. And Nick Orzel, who plays the bartender, was also a stage director who was also involved. And again, yeah, a lot of those little scenes that really died out when like rents and things became too expensive to have spaces like this and stuff. But yeah, the 60s was really 60s New York was really active in terms of theater in a way that you really could not replicate today.
No, and I wonder if Andy Milligan starting a stage production place in the mid 1970s was an attempt to capture that again. I don't know, you know.
I think it must have been. Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it definitely was. But things had really moved on since then, or became bigger. Like La Mama's still going on today from when it was in the early 60s. In the early 60s when Andy started with it, it was like in a basement. And just like the Cafe Chino, just one primitive little stage, and they stole like chairs off the street and things to fill in the audience and stuff. And then they grew to have like multiple troops touring all over and things like that. And Andy once again went a little too big with trying to have two. He had two stages
Been there, yeah.
and was running two shows at the same time. Instead of just having one at a time, he went again a little beyond his means, like with the period stuff,
I,
and
I get
eyes
this
bigger than the stomach.
I get this picture of Milligan just overworked with a bag full of his old films in his room, going downstairs, hastily getting these things together, trying to take the tickets and stuff like that. That must have been interesting back then.
It was too much for him. Even he ended up saying that like he never went out and things like that, like for however long the troop was. And it went on for a couple years.
Hmm.
That wasn't just 1 or 2 years of the troop. Like that lasted a lot more than I ever thought it would be. And yeah, that definitely was his attempt at a return to form with the Chino. Though unfortunately he really just couldn't replicate because he tried a bunch of different times. He tried to have a little troupe very briefly on Staten Island before the Troupe Theater, where he found some of his 70 Staten Island people who were in like Legacy of Blood and House of Seven Bells. That's where he found a lot of those people. But yeah, the times were just really different. And he wasn't as much of a people person like Joe Chino.
Yeah.
Like Joe gave him the space, but Andy didn't have to run the space
Hmm. Hmm.
very much. Andy was almost kind of looking for that freedom that he had back at the Chino, but he was having to do everything. Unlike back then, he just had to, do his plays and not run the whole goddamn place and then have to advertise and things like that.
I just think Milligan was a guy who tried a lot of things and had success sometimes, but not long-term success in things, unfortunately, because he was more disciplined than
No.
Joe Chino in his personal life and
Mhm.
stuff like that. I wanted to. Oh, go on. Go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. He definitely was, but also again, it's also that thing where he also could never delegate authority.
Well, I guess
He had a lot of
Yeah,
talented
yeah.
people around him. He had some really interesting people around him. But again, I think it was also a general like very deep rooted mistrust
Of things.
in that if he didn't do it, something would mess up.
That's a good point.
Pretty much. I think it was a very deep mistrust thing. That's what's kind of become apparent to me.
Mhm.
Is that like yeah, he just couldn't trust other people. He sorry couldn't let them in,
Yeah.
and as a result, instead he burned himself out way more in the end.
Well, in the documentary that came out, I was quite touched by Gerald Jacuzzo. Now, this he was going
Yes.
back to long ago memories, and they probably had some kind of estrangement late in their life, but you could tell what a big part of his life at that point Andy Milligan was.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they did remain friends, of course. It was almost kind of like when Andy got his house, their relationship naturally like parted because they weren't living together anymore.
Hmm.
Because their relationship kind of really blossomed because they became roommates and things just naturally sort of
Hmm.
ended
Yeah.
up happening. But then he moved out of that apartment, and fun fact, Jerry still lives in that apartment to this day. Like it's in the documentary and stuff. That's the
Yeah.
exact same apartment that they lived in and stuff, but remained good friends still.
So they never
Like
estranged them. They were always good friends.
yeah, no. They were never really estranged, anything like that. Like Hope remembers her and Jerry seeing Andy a bunch as well in the 70s
Okay.
and things like that. And again, they were the two that he actually paid, besides John Miranda, which I found a bit odd, but they're the two friends that he paid to bring over. And they got a nice little London trip out of it. I'm pretty sure that's the London trip that prompted Hope to even live in London for a little while
Hmm.
after that. And they've stayed in contact in the California days via phone and things like that. And Andy didn't really do that with. I'm trying to think if anyone else really mentioned him keeping in contact with them. Not even Hal Borsky. Like Hal Borsky lost contact with him until he rang him up for monstrosity, thanks to McDonough. Was like, okay, babe, time to put on the red shoes again. Jerry was quite possibly the only one.
You know, it's uh, the movie I most want to see is
Mhm.
The Naked Witch, and that's only because before she died, I had an email correspondence for a few years with Beth Porter, and I just like to see
Nice.
that movie. She used to she told me that she would see The Naked Temptress in London
Mhm.
when it was playing, and I imagine she's a little bit like Rattray, wondering if she wanted people to know she was in it. I don't know, but
She never, I think, seemed to, because I'm pretty sure she told other people as well. Oh, there's my movie. There's my movie
well, I think
playing.
what she said was, she
Uh,
said, and I read this somewhere else. She told me, "I just wish it had a better clientele." Okay, something watching it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true because yeah, because of those theaters. Like I think I said in the commentary, like Andy, Jerry, and Hope went down to 42nd Street to see Depraved, and they had to move seats because a guy was a little further down doing something under his coat.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Like, yeah, some of the theaters were pretty good, were pretty decent. Like the World Theater, and was really well kept and things like that. But yeah, no. You were with some interesting. You were rubbing elbows with some very interesting folks, at the same time to see these rather interesting films. Like Naked Witch is pretty much almost sexless from what I've learned. They had to do an extra sex scene after it was shot because Michigan wanted more.
Satisfy Michigan's
Uh,
and the audience needs, probably. You know,
yeah.
I wish there were more people. I wish Susan Cassidy would reappear. I'd love to interview her because she's so good in Torture Dungeon. All right, it's just
Mhm.
fun to watch and everything. And also, one more thing about Milligan is he has characters in these movies
Yeah.
that come out of nowhere and you never see them again. And the one that strikes me is the wedding planner in Torture Dungeon. Do you have any idea of who she
Love
was?
her. No one knows who she was. Well, she's not even credited.
I
Like,
know
there's a
she
bunch
isn't.
of those Staten Island folks
Yeah.
who aren't even credited. Yeah, I really love little characters like that, especially in his black and white sexploitation films. He always has these goons that are always normally wear sunglasses indoors, like the freak out character in Filthy Five, and they're the little craziest little guys who always have a little side, one or two side scenes of them doing awful stuff, but they have no relation to the rest of the movie. Um, and again, also probably was also a little bit of filler. I will say that torture dungeon scene really does go on and on and
It
on.
does, it does. But she's just
That really does
incredibly.
help pad out the runtime. Yeah, she's fantastic, and yeah, she's again one of these out of all of the who I assume she's a non-actor, but again, I don't know. Like we do not know where she came from, but she's giving it her all, as if this was like her one shot. That was it. She knew she was just going to disappear into the ether.
A couple others were the Hunchback in Torture Dungeon. Is that just someone he grabbed and we ever see that guy again in the movie? I
Well, here's the thing. According to Halborski, he left
Because he's being whipped or
somewhere
something?
in the production because he was just really freaked out by Andy's direction and how intense Andy was and things. Like, I'm pretty sure that Ivan, who comes in to grab Susan Cassidy after she has sex with Halborski, I think that's someone else because it's just their back and it's not
Ah,
his voice. It's
that's
someone
interesting.
else trying to imitate his voice. You can
Oh,
kind of tell. So I'm pretty sure, yeah, according to Borski, he disappeared. He dipped out.
that's
So whether
interesting.
he was another actor, I have no idea because he got scared and apparently got scared and ran.
What about Buster
Some
and
people couldn't
Seeds? What
take.
about Buster and Seeds? We never see him again, right?
Gene Connolly
Did
did
he do another one?
two or three other films.
Oh,
He did
right.
not do films for Milligan.
Okay.
He did two other sex films. I've seen him in a really bad one called A Bride for Brenda, where the poor guy's just tied up and getting abused by two women. And same thing in another one he was in called Joys of Georgette. Um, I think my good friend and researcher Casey Scott found him in one or two stage things as well. Yeah, he did one or two other things, but where he went, we don't know.
Okay. I wanted to ask you if you know any insights about Andy's attempt to become his own producer distributor with Nova. He made a couple films for them, right? One, of course, is Guru. Um,
Mhm.
but he discovered that he wasn't good at this, right? And did he even make any more money with it?
Well, I don't know about okay, so he claimed that his two co-conspirators, he wasn't the only guy with it. It was two other people. One of them was a man named Phil Todaro,
Hmm.
who was a producer, and he also Phil was involved with notorious theater owner Chelly Wilson
Well, Landis was really
a bit.
slandering Todoro in the book. Go on.
Yeah, he was in I don't know whatever happened to him, but he was around. He actually his company acquired Vapors. He had a little company called, I'm trying to remember, I don't think it was Abrams and Parisi.
Was it Fair April? Something I read the name of the company today and I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Is it
I'm trying to
Rainbow?
remember if
No,
it was
maybe not Rainbow.
Abrams and Parisi. It might have been Abrams and Parisi. He did have a small distribution company that, yes, that handled Vapors and a couple other sexploitation films. So he had, an idea of how distribution works and things like that. And I don't know if he was ever named a lawyer, and he just said a lawyer that he also got involved with that one. And what happened with that was that I think it was Phil who started making deals with sub distributors that Andy didn't like. According to Andy, they went bankrupt making all sorts of prints for this one sub distributor out in Florida, and things like that. Not sure uh, why that ended up happening or not, but yeah. So that soured because they supposedly went bankrupt, and then as a result of that bankruptcy, it's never been confirmed as to like how.
Hmm.
Andy thinks because Phil had some sort of thing with Charlie Wilson that he somehow ended up pawning off the films to her. Because her daughter Bondi had a company called Variety Films,
That's what the name I
and
was thinking. Yeah.
Variety Films took over those. I have a little sell sheet of them that says it's being distributed by Variety Films.
Hmm.
And then Terry Levine ended up with those two films and did a pretty good saturation run in New York with those two. But again, this is all according to Andy. It's never been confirmed again how they ended up with Variety Films as a result of the bankruptcy.
Hmm.
Who knows? Phil might have just thought and I'm just speculating. Maybe
Yeah.
Phil thought that was an easy. He knew those people, and that was an easy way to recoup to again get them out of bankruptcy,
Hmm. Hmm.
or something like that. It could have been very logical, but to Andy, he maybe, yeah, might have just thought that they were again being pawned off, which resulted in him, yeah, again going into movie theaters and taking back prints
Well, taking back Prince, for
of those
example,
films.
he went with the Bryanston Group for Blood, which as a movie I like more every time I watch it, to be honest. But he
Yeah, that's an
actually went.
entertaining one.
They did Deep Throat. They did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre apparently, and they apparently had some kind of mafia affiliation. So Andy went into their offices and demanded his money, right?
Yes, supposedly not being aware that they were mafia. Pretty much. Yeah, so shockingly, and maybe it was just because this was easier to do, they gave him what they owed him, which he spent $20,000 on that. He got 40,000
He actually made some money on that
off of
movie
that.
then.
Yeah, he got that's pretty much his best payoff. Oh, and I found Phil Tadaro's company, Leo Todd Pictures. That
Okay.
was, yeah, Leo Todd had Vapors, and they did a bunch of other things. That was it. Leo Todd, not Abrams and Parisi, but they were very similar.
Well,
Yeah, Bryson was probably one of the best payouts for Andy out of anything, really. That was like the best one, I want to say.
that movie was so hard to find for a long time. Now we even have the complete movie, it seems now. To me, it's
Yeah,
like
that was really
his version
crazy.
of House of Frankenstein or something. It's a crazy little film. It's got crazy characters like the lawyer. It's got the weird
Hmm.
brother sister relationship and everything. And Hope is out of control in that
It's
film. She's great.
Oh yeah, Hope's absolutely fantastic. And that's very more. Andy really liked like the classic Universal movies. He liked
Hmm.
Hammer movies as
Hmm.
well. Those were some of his favorites,
Hmm.
contemporary films that were going on. So that's really his ultimate of those. That's like his version of a Hammer film
I want to.
is Blood.
We're going to have you on again in 6 months, all right? Because we're not going to get through the entire canon of Andy Milligan, unfortunately, right now. But
Yeah, no, no.
I want to get your opinion of 'cause there's so many things I could talk about, but I ramble on. Fleshpot on 42nd Street. What do you think about that movie?
That's a great little movie.
I love it too. I
Um,
like Girls of 42nd Street a little better than Fleshpot because I think it's suitably restrained. But
I don't know. Girls is a lot weirder and sleazier to me. I'm like, they sound really young. They sound like way too young to be hanging out on
oh well,
42nd
the
Street. I don't know.
title,
I think
yeah.
Fleshpot.
But
I
those
think
two
Fleshpot's
sisters,
fantastic.
in the bar, are once again like the Wedding Planner characters that are incredible. I
The
just love
Simmons
it.
sisters.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're good. They're wonderfully emblematic of just weird ass characters who are floating around 42nd Street, who like just the kind of people you'd run into, like going to the local Greasy Spoon, and things like that. You know, you got all sorts of weird, flotsam, end of the road. How are these people still alive? What are they surviving on? Type of characters like on that street, and they're every character in that is very emblematic of that idea, pretty much.
and
Like, just how are these people still alive?
Neil Flanagan is incredible in that movie. I mean, my co-blogger and I think of cult film actors who should get Academy Awards in another multiverse.
And
She
it's
should get an
Neil.
Academy Award nomination for that performance.
Oh yeah, so many. Yeah, so many. Funny enough, though, actually, that was one of his few films that got a lot of really good reviews. The press book has like almost a whole page of like really good review quotes, and things like that. Because this was also around the time when like Paul Morrissey's like Flesh films were coming
Yeah.
out and things like that. So it didn't do really well financially, but a certain crowd of people really saw what he was going for with that one. Like some of the exploitation films, the ones that were just like always kind of reviled were the horror films, because those were just a little too far out there. People saw stuff like Filthy Five, was like, okay, it's cheap, but I can kind of see what he's trying to go for, and would do better with a bigger budget. Like, there's something interesting here, not in terms of sex. There's almost no sex, but there's something. But he's got something going on here, and that was kind of Flourish in Fleshpot was kind of the last nice gasp at that. And also, of course, that was also the last Oricon film as well. Like, that was
That's
the
true.
last
That's
of his
true.
16 millimeter movies, probably because of that film, because he had the most problems with the camera on that film. That was probably like, yeah, I'm sick of this goddamn Oricon camera. We need to finally get rid of it. which
that movie.
everything
I fell in
changed.
love with Diana Lewis. Okay, in that movie. All right,
Yeah, Laura Cannon,
yeah, Laura
and
Cannon.
Laura
I've never
Cannon
seen any
never
other
really.
movie of her. I like to make sure my wife knows that.
Oh,
But I have seen.
I've seen quite a few.
Okay, but she's just she's incredible in that film. And
Yeah, she gives off the feeling that she is. There's something so sad about Laura, and you just see
yeah,
that in her expression, even with other movies.
yeah.
Laura always looks kind of lost and concerned in any film I've ever seen her in.
Hmm.
Like she always looks like there's something going on up. She's got some like conundrum going on up there that she's like lost in life
Hmm.
in a way. So she really encapsulates Dusty. Once again, I can't imagine anyone else in that role.
I read the Rialto blog article on her. She was well trained as an actress.
Yeah. Yeah, once again, also very talented. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, she didn't really get to use those talents a lot 'cause she was in a lot of really cheap, awful sex films, like all those really bad
yeah.
Leonard Kurtman, Two Day Wonder, just roll around on the floor while we
Hmm.
follow you with the camera, kind of a thing. Even the one Joe Sarno film she's in is not really doesn't really make good use of her as well. It was just really Andy's flesh pot.
And you talk about the characters. You wonder how their lives are going on. Like Jimmy in that movie is a far more sadistic version of Stan, I think, in Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. To be honest, I mean,
But also a bit of a more thoughtful
yeah,
one as well too.
yeah,
Like he also, yeah, he there's another whole side of him that she pulls out
yeah.
right after that scene. I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. Um, and it's probably and again with some of the strange people. I wish I knew about his nightly excursions, but also I wouldn't because I would probably be really scared of Andy even more.
Oh yeah.
But he's one of those people that I'm like, I feel like Andy met this guy once years ago somewhere in some back alley in the basement of some S&M bar or something, and he just put this guy he met on paper.
That's the truth. Um, I I want to ask one more thing. We're running out of time,
Okay.
unfortunately. Uh, do you think there'll be a well, you have no idea, no, neither do I, but do you think it'd be a good idea to have a California Blu-ray of Milligan's three films in California, Blu-ray set?
I just say why not?
Yeah.
All the discs are out of print and things like that. I think Surgical's the only one that's still readily available. The other two are out of print.
Fortunately, I own them.
Um, yeah, thank God. Because those are good releases. Those are really good releases. Um, but no, I wouldn't be against that just for the real, at least partially for the sake of just still having them available as well, because they're a bit harder to find now.
Hmm.
Surgical is only available on DVD. It's not available on Blu-ray or anything like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not going to lose sleep if it doesn't happen. Sorry, folks who like his California films. It's not going to keep me up at night. But would it be a nice little trilogy? Yeah, I can see it. I can see it being a cool little set.
I think the last half of Monstrosity turns it into something special.
Hmm.
I'm kind of it's okay, the weirdo. Now, Surgical is a bad movie, but it is part of the canon, I guess,
Hmm.
and everything.
Yeah, Weirdo just really makes me wish even more when I see it that the original
Had been
version
there,
still
yeah.
exists because that was another Staten Island movie shot in '68
Hmm.
actually. So that was another one of those like little black and whites that unfortunately according to him I left it in a basement somewhere. Thanks, Andy.
Well,
Thank you so much.
I'd like to know more about any kind of plays Milligan did in California, if there were some, and stuff like that. I've even heard he even had a dress shop briefly there. I don't know, it would be fun to know more about his life.
Trish plays. I haven't heard of him doing any plays in
That's what
California,
I'd like to. I've heard
actually.
people tell me that, and I'd like to know if it really happened. Be interesting to find out.
Yeah, I
Um,
would too, actually.
and
Huh. I'm going to start asking some people about that. For some odd reason, that's one of those things that just never crossed my mind is doing plays in California.
Well, it seems to me McDonough would
You've got me
know,
thinking.
perhaps. Although maybe he just came out for the last movie, penultimate movie. I don't know. It,
Yeah, I'm not too sure now that I'm thinking about it. I'm trying to think if there wasn't as much of a theater scene in California like there was in New York as well, too. That's also the thing. California wasn't really,
there's small
it's all
playhouses.
movies,
I grew
movies,
up in Long
movies
Beach.
over there.
There's
Yeah,
small
there's small
playhouses.
ones.
Um,
There's very tiny ones, but would they have been around where Andy was living?
in Long
I
Beach,
need to think about that too.
in Long Beach, I used to see Judith. I can't remember her name. She's in Night of the Living Dead in community theater.
Oh, Judith O'Dea?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
That's so cool. That's really cool. My goodness. Yeah, they would have to be also be like near where he lived. I mean, like I don't know if it's changed or how it was back then, but I mean transit in LA has never been the best as far as
No,
as
but
far
even
as
if you
I'm
live in Long
aware
Beach,
of.
LA is 20 miles away. It's a well, unfortunately, it
Yeah,
could be an hour-long
exactly.
drive on the 405 or
Yeah,
605.
so it would have had to have been near where he was as well. It wasn't exactly like New York's a breeze to get through. There's so many damn subway lines and things like that, you know.
Hmm.
Having just gone there and zipping to his house in Staten Island's easier than you think.
Definitely.
Uh, California, no, I'm not sure. I'll have to
Well, it'll
look.
be
I'm
something
looking
to
into
think
that
about
now.
someday. But I want to thank
Hmm.
you for your time here. I want to urge
Yeah,
people
thank you for
to
having me.
give your
Yeah.
contributions that are in these and on both these excellent Blu-ray sets. The new one's a little bit cheaper than the other one, but get the other one because you don't want to have to start buying it for higher prices someday. The
Yeah,
dungeon one.
exactly. That one's limited. Gutter Tour isn't, but Dungeon is limited.
Yeah, I think that our VHS of Torture Dungeons is worth several $100s now.
It's worth a lot. It's apparently according to VHS collectors, it's like the rarest midnight videotape for whatever reason.
Well, I think I
That's the
think it's
hardest one to get.
I should have brought it today. I just didn't think of it. But thank you for your time, and I hope you come back so we can talk more about the later part of his life. We didn't get to Carnage. We didn't get to Legacy of Blood. My friend, my co-blogger and I
Oh yeah, there's a
we used
lot
to
more.
sell Legacy of Horror on a bootleg DVD about 15 years ago. It's not like
Oh yeah,
that.
back when it was impossible to find.
Yeah.
Oh well, you were helping us out.
Yeah.
You were helping us out a bit. That was really hard to find for the longest time.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed. We didn't talk about House of Seven Bells or oh gosh, Compass Rose. Do you know that there's a woman named
Oh,
Andrea
Compass Rose is
Milligan
wild.
who's a lawyer or a realtor? I can't remember. I think a realtor, and Compass Rose is the name of her realty service. Because I was googling.
Really?
That's got to be connected. It's got to be an inside joke. Her name is Andrea Milligan, and she has Compass Rose Realty. Google it
I
someday.
just find it really. I'm gonna look. I just find it really, really funny to then she didn't and sent that movie to her, and she's just mortified by the time she gets to the pie fight orgy in his basement.
There's a movie to me. I think there's a movie in Compass Rose. I think when he saw the horrible sound, he just gave up on it. That's my personal.
Yeah, I think it's the horrible sound. Also, I feel like I honestly feel like Joseph Bush sustained a head injury between Kiss Me and that because the script is nowhere near as good
Yeah,
as Kiss Me either. I don't know what happened with Joseph after Kiss Me. Yeah, there's something there.
Let me give a little spiel I give at the end. We're Plan 9 Crunch. You can love us on YouTube. Please, well, I'm not desperate, but give us a like if you like our stuff on YouTube. And also, we're on TikTok, where usually my daughter does stuff because she garners more hits than me. And then we're at Plan 9 Crunch podcast and blog on Facebook. And Steve Stones and I, my son now, have had a blog since 2008 called plan9crunch.com, which a lot of Milligan films are reviewed on there. And I'm going to review Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me this week.
Yep.
Steve just reviewed Compass Rose. And I think I did The Degenerates a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago. But we want to thank you for your time.
Yes, you did.
Alex. And you've been
Yeah,
fantastic.
anytime.
Yeah, and it's just great to talk to a Milligan fan because there was a time, I remember I worked in a newspaper for 20 years and the editorial page editor was a former movie critic. And he was not a big fan of Torture Dungeon when I shared it with him. But you know what? I think you have to watch. I think you have to watch Milligan several times to fully appreciate him. So,
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that. Yeah.
and so this is Flannery Crunch, and that's a wrap.